Basically, I just wanted to entice your towards this data analytics. Right. Let me touch a bit of what we have done and what our experience on manipulating and playing with the data. Right. As a start, let me show just in case maybe those who don't know who is MIMOS. We are actually a national applied R&D center. It's under it's a subsidiary of a government under MOF. It's a government owned company. So we're doing the applied R&D, especially on the microelectronics and also software. Okay. So we have basically about 800 researchers, scientists, and engineers in our company. And we have filed 1,000 something patent in the MyIPO, and 400 plus of them already granted as a patent. And we have developed 99 high impact projects delivered to the government. And we have also commercialized about 520 IPs. And in 2017 and 2018, we been awarded as a top research scientist Malaysia, two of us, Dr. Hafizal and also Dr. Nordin. Right. This is as a background of what we have done. And looking at the 4IR, basically this is what being defined by World Economic Forum on what is 4IR, which is big data, AI, simulation, blockchain integration, Internet of Things, cybersecurity, augmented reality, additive manufacturing, and cloud and edge computing, right? And this is in Malaysia, this is, they call it as industry forward instead of IR 4.0. So the reason being is because when Malaysian government look at the industry, at the moment we are not ready for the 4.0 yet. So that's why they changed the title to become industry forward, meaning that going to 4.0. Right. So we wanted to achieve this 4.0. Right. In industry forward, these are the area that we are working on, which is big data analytics, AI, cybersecurity, simulation, additive manufacturing, blockchain, IoT, cloud computing. So in my area, most of the time I'm working on blockchain side, blockchain and also traceability. All right. When we talk about data analytics, the first thing is we need to have data. So in MIMOS, what we have done this, we call it, it's a data robots. So basically it's an automated data acquisition and aggregation where we can deploy it on the internet and it will crawl and get all the information about you. So we can have a target. If let's say we wanted to target to any particular URL, or we can also target based on keywords or whatever we wanted to get. So this is what we can see on the high level overview, whereby you basically have a robot. You have a robot that go and collect all the information. So the information basically have been in a structured way. So maybe in your database, it could be in MySQL or SQL Server or Oracle, whatever, which is in the structured format. And when we talk about another kind of data, it's unstructured format. In unstructured format, it could be in your Twitter, in your Facebook, in your YouTube, in your any news, and so on. And then after that, all this data will be converted into centralized data lake. Everything will be collected here. And as I said just now, we have structured, unstructured, and another type of information is machine data. Machine data could be something like images or Apple Watch or whatever watch, smartwatch, GIS information and so on. So all this information being collected from the internet and then bring back to this particular data lake. So this is how we deploy this robot, small robot. We call it MyClip here, that we can target to anything, and it will go and fetch the information back to the system. So just an added note, for example, like if let's say you write something in the Facebook or in Twitter, so basically people can read whatever you write, and it can be collected by this robot and bring back to the system. Right. For example, like this one, if let's say I target for the word NIMOS, these are the information that coming back, whereby the information, it could be in a general or in the news, in the blog, in the picture, in the video form, right? So it could be anything that coming back, whatever has a word NIOSH, right? And then the next step will be establishing data relevance. So it could be NIOSH, could be something else. So if let's say you look at this, if you scroll this, there are also NIOSH in, I think this one in Japan. This is also NIOSH, and this one is in US, and this is Jamaican. This something else which is not related to NIOSH Malaysia. So due to that, the relevancy, we need to remove all those that not related information from our collection to make it more relevant. So after that, after we get that kind of data, then comes to data cleansing. So data cleansing is basically you have a large data set and you wanted to make it ready for the analysis, right? So to do this, we have another technology, we call it MIMOS. MIMOS is to detect and correct the data. So for your information, like this one, Selangor, the word Selangor itself has been written in 61 ways. So there are a lot of written word referring to Selangor. For example, like SLNG Selangor, Selasngor, DE also Selangor, SGO Selangor. So there are many way of representing Selangor, right? Darul Ehsan also Selangor. And for the Kuala Lumpur, there are 41 ways of written Kuala Lumpur. So they are, if you can see this, human can basically understand what they mean. But for machine, you need to make sure that it represent one thing. So this is that's why we say you need to clean the data. Otherwise, the machine will not understand. For example, like this one, that just now is the address, the name of the states, right? The city. So this one about the name of human. For example, like this one, Doris Lee Chong Leng. This one is an exact match. No issue with this. Computer can easily read. But what if Nolaili Binti and Binti here? The first word and the second word is the same, but the middle word is different, right? So you need to train the machine. This is actually the same, right? And then how about Mau Bo Biti Dastagir? Then you see this, there is additional B here. So this is another thing. So if let's say you can see there are a lot of method representing name as well. And what are the algorithm that we are using to basically understand this is actually the same person, right? So this is the cleansing that we need to do. And for example, like in JPN data, you have basically a lot of database and you need to multiply with all these rules. So there's about 7,000 rules like this to determine who are you, right? So this is basically a lot of operation just to make sure that you are the same person as defined at another place. So this is another data cleansing part. And then if let's say you look at this is the schools in Malaysia. So you can see there are a lot of schools in here and also here. But if let's say you look at the map, the whole map, there's also school in the middle of the sea, right? Somewhere in Africa, right? Which is not right. So if you look at clearly, it's not even in the island. It's just in the middle of the sea. So clearly, there's something wrong with the data. So if you look at this one, so what we need to do the cleansing on that part, right? So what happened is, if you look at this is the original information, and this is the cleanse information. You see, there's a school that is not defined as longitude and latitude. So the machine need to basically define this and give the value, right? For example, like this one, JLN, now cleanse to Jalan. This one is not defined, so it give you another number. Okay, this is another example. Jalan change to Jalan. Follow my, okay. This one is Lipes Raup, but the written is wrong, so it is corrected. And then KGSG, for human can easily understand this is Kampung Sungai, but for machine, it need to be worked out to make it change to this Kampung Sungai. Georgetown, the correct word is Georgetown, right? So this is how one of the example of how they cleanse the data. How we do that? Because there's a lot of operation to do that. Just now, like you see just now on the name itself, there's about 2.7 trillion operation just to determine who are who, right? So if let's say you are using central processing unit, CPU, you will be having a lot of machines just to handle that. So to do that, what we did is we come up with the idea of having the operation to be processed from the GPU itself. So GPU is basically a graphic processing unit. So I think those gamers, they know what this card all about. And if you look at CPU, basically you like the maximum CPU nowadays is about 16 core or something like that, the biggest one, right? And you need a lot of power just to bring up this large CPU processing, right? But compared to graphic processing unit, you basically have thousand of cores instead of 16. Now you have thousands of cores. For example, like this one, NVIDIA Tesla, the cheapest one is about 1,000 something. They have about 2,465 CPU core inside this small board, a gaming board, graphic processing unit, right? So that's how we utilize this CPU, this GPU, to process the data. So if let's say you can see here, the normal CPU processing took about 10 days, can be processed in 3 hours when using this GPU. So 2.7 quintillion operation. So to do this, sometimes the machine itself broke in the middle. So that's why in a mission critical processing, it need to be done efficiently, right? And then, for example, like this one, the next step is you need to make it a relation and meaning. So you need to have a meaning for everything what we have. For example, like uh, English word for cup, we call it cawan. Maybe in another area they call it something else, but they all referring to the cup, right? So in this case, we have my harmony here to harmonize the data. So basically, like for example, like in police, they call it nombor KP baru. In immigration, they call it nombor kad pengenalan semasa. In JPN, they call it nombor KPT. In SSM, they call it person ID. And in HR, JPJ, HR, and JPA, they call it nombor kad pengenalan. So all these name words are referring to the same thing, which is the IC, right? So this is what the data harmonize is all about. So once you have all this data being cleansed, being collected, being cleansed, being harmonized, then only you can go for a better understanding on what the data all about. Just now, just about data. Now we start to learn what the data all about. So to do that, you have basically uh, this is the part that you collect. Basically, you have data in motion, which is in moving data, like traffic, sensor, camera, all these are moving data. And also you have data at rest, which is coming from the database. And both of these you need to prepare it to make it ready for machine learning and store in the distributed storage for later visualization and also discovery. So you can see there are steps here, which is from data go to intelligence, and after that you can make an action. Right. So this is the how the data flow. Okay, one of the example, if let's say we get the data from waste, we can collect and we can populate the data that we collected, and we can also mix it with the Google Map information and so on. We can see actually where are the area that are congested in our city, right? And for example, like this one, from Jalan Semenyih to all this area, and from LDP, these are the biggest area that goes to lah, E11, whatever. And then Jalan Ampang, Jalan Sultan Ismail. So you can understand here that people coming from Tun Razak is basically going to Ampang, going to E38 Lebuh Raya, E12, or Jalan Eaton and Jalan Pasar. So you can do something based on this understanding, you can make an action, right? So this is how we understand the data and how we react to the data. And for example, like what we have done in police department, police basically have their own, basically for the JPA, we have a HR management information system where you can put bila you nak cuti, bila you go for training, skill and so on. But there are also crime because we understand that there are relationship between number of police and number of crime. So the more the police you put on the street, the lesser the crime will be in action. So you need to improve the public safety and simplify resource allocation. So you cannot simply put more manpower on the street just because you want to reduce the number of crime, because you need to efficiently decide where to put this police on the street, where you should put less, where should put more. So you need to understand that. So for example, like this one in the Taling Jaya area, these are the crime numbers of crime happen in the area. And based on this information, we can basically simulate what will happen if we put more people on the street. Will the crime go down? So we can do the simulation. And after we did this, we can see the number of crime can be reduced while maintaining the efficiency of number of police allocated at the area. So this is how the data can help uh, for to be efficient in the operation, right? So these are the formulas that they have done just to make sure that the number of police are allocated correctly. So now we comes to the device that collect the data. In IoT ecosystem, we know that there's a lot of data that coming back to the system. So you basically have a level 1, a level 2, and level 3 data coming to the system, right? So most of data are basically useless, right? So you need to know what are data that you should take up and what you should ignore, right? So that means data aggregation can build value, right? So you need to understand that where the device collect the data, goes to the gateway, gateway goes to the network, network goes to the server, and so on. And this also, you have another data maybe from the other part of the world and come back to the system. But data disseminate to realize value. So this is more important. So just now you want to build the value. Then after you build, you need to realize how to make sure that that value can give you something, right? So this involve in this area. See, this is why we say that IR 4.0 is basically involved in many ways. It could be in cybersecurity, in cloud edge computing, in big data, in simulation, in AI, in blockchain, and so on. So you can see here where you involve devices, gateway, and network, security is more important, right? And when it comes to the servers, you now wanted to play with the data. You want to do simulation, you wanted to do AI, analytic, and so on, right? And when it comes to the e-commerce, for example, the blockchain is very important because you don't want, you want to put some trust to the system, right? Okay, now I come to an example of what project that we have done that maybe interest you to explore more on this big data industry lah. Okay, right? Bird nest farming. So you can see this is near to you, in Kuala Terengganu. This is the house of the bird. It's 3-story house. There's a stair here. It's not for the bird lah. Okay. So basically you have level ground, level 1, level 2. And what we have done, we have put in the sensors. To power up, we use solar panel. And then we put in the camera. We have the gateway Wi-Fi. And these are the device, the control power and so on. And what we wanted to monitor is basically temperature, humidity, and oxygen. Because only at the good temperature and humidity and also oxygen level, the bird will be inside the house. So we wanted to maintain the number of birds in the house and create their sarang here. So that is the main idea of having all these sensors. Right? So you can monitor this from the IoT. The device will collect the information and bring back to the system. And you can maintain that particular temperature and humidity just to make sure that all the birds stay in the house, right? Okay, if let's say you can see here, this is the camera that watching the movement of the bird. They actually can count how many birds in the house. So how many going out, how many going in. So they can calculate that one and they can understand how good is their environment to accommodate the birds, right? So if let's say the house is too warm or too humid or less humid or too cold, so most of the bird will run away. So they will know how many is no longer active or what. This one another example on mushroom nursery. So this is also to monitor the environment. So you need to monitor all those carbon inside the room and so on, and the humidity. So basically, we wanted to make sure that we can profit a lot out of it, and with the lower cost, data-driven knowledge, market analytic, and secure transmission. So all this be done. And we also do a project on the fish farming. This one to reduce risk because if let's say anything happen to the water, the fish or the prawn will die lah, right? So these are the example. Okay. So basically, same like just now, we wanted to lower the cost, data-driven fish breeding and so on. Okay, this one is on the farming. This one is also a similar concept where you monitor all the pH, temperature, and so on, and the NPK, the soil nutrient, and so on. And in the water, also you need to understand what are the level of water content. And comes to manufacturing, this is one of the project, and the intention is to reduce the electricity. So this one is actually a factory that manufacture the food product for the ayam lah, ayam makanan ayam, right? So basically they monitor the the electric being used in the factory using the IoT, and from that data, we can come out that at that particular time, for example, like at 1, at 2, and 3, and 4, this is the peak time where the number of power being consumed, right? So because of this, we come out with a recommendation. The system recommend how and when to turn off the devices. And then we can get basically 10% saving in 6 months. Right. This is another example. This one's basically to maintain and to make sure we can reduce the cost by make sure that the quality uphold at a good temperature, right? This is also IoT. So the IoT will basically collect the information on the chiller, on the spin chiller area, and also the evisceration area, and make sure that the temperature are controlled and within the allowed temperature, just to make sure that the quality of the product will be maintained. This is another solution. This one on the AI, where it's analyze the information on how many tests being done for this particular Bluetooth headset, and the company is basically to conduct a test on every single devices that go through the production. Then after that, they will conduct a test just to make sure that the quality is good, right? So there are about 2,000 test cases for every single device. So they need to run through that one. And after we run through and we understand the information, how the data being collected, then the AI translate and recommend what are the necessary test cases that need to be done and what can be dropped because they are achieving the same goal or same objective, right? So based on that, they're able to minimize from 3 minutes, right? Okay, from 3 minutes to 2.4 minutes per device. So you just imagine how many devices in the factory, how many thousand of them can be minimized in terms of time, right? Okay, this now we are going to this deep learning, machine learning and deep learning on the images and video recognition. So you can see here, this is quite common. People reading the license plate number, right? And this one is to understand how many cars that go through the road. And this one for the safety, and this one for the human behavior. This is the standard plate. If let's say you go to overseas, the car plate is basically standard. So you can define what are the gap size and what are the fonts that being used. So this is standard outside, right? But in Malaysia, these are example of the number plate. So you have spacing, small spacing. There's no control about this, right? And then we have a special number, and we have some fancy font. So we have different format to entertain. So that's why some of the license plate recognition software that we have from outside, sometimes they not work in Malaysia because Malaysia have different kind of number plate. So that's why MIMOS come up with this plate licensing recognition, LPR, license plate recognition, so to understand how to read all these kind of information, right? For example, like this one, this is the boom gate in our office in KL. So we don't need anybody to guard the gate. So basically, any car that registered, if you go past to the boom gate, it will recognize you and then it will lock in your attendance as well. So for example, like this one, so you just go pass by and then if let's say the car is recognized, it will automatically open the gate and allow you to go through, right? So they can also track when you actually arrive at the parking and so on. And so this is the deep learning where in the special cases, for example, like this one, you need to handle on the low light, how to understand from the image in the dark image like this, how to basically read the number, and at the high speed, how to read the car plate number. The motorbike, how to differentiate between the motorbike and motor car. And then because of we are under the sun, so how to handle in the glaring situation. How about raining? How about raining and poor raining, right? How about tailgating? So all these are the challenges that we need to understand and to handle this part of information, right? So these are the example of how the system can actually read and understand who you are. So basically, the system can adapt and can read that one. But there are actually a learning curve where we need to add in the artificial intelligence to the system. For example, like from the image, it goes to the age detection. It will see what is the car, how it's shaped, and then it convert to the block, and then how to make it as how to recognize the number. So these are the area that we have to understand. from the input, you need to come up with a prediction to predict what are the things, right? And then you need to also understand, is the logo, is it the character, or is it just a logo? So you need to understand that as well. And what about the wording being attached to the car or to the lorry? Is it a plate number, or is it a normal signing or normal wording on the car, right? And then here come the deep learning, whereby you need to know how to differentiate all this character, and you need to train the machine to understand this is, for example, like this is D, this is Q. To teach, you need to teach the machine, and it will self-learn. All right. So here you can see, with the normal traditional law and rules, you can get about 92% of prediction accuracy. But with the inference model, you need to train, and you get another 4.4%, so that you can get a better number of accuracy, which is 96.8%. Right? This is what we have done. This is another example. This one is to see whether the speed follow the road speed. Okay. And this one is to see the movement, whether you are crossing the road. See, it will detect and it will mention that, oh, this is an event that could be a dangerous event. This is the parking lot. Usually people will put in the sensor on each of the parking lot. But using a camera, using an image, you can basically see which are the lot that are occupied, which are not, how many of them, and since when it was occupied. So they can even calculate the number of time being parked at the place, right? So you just put in one CCTV camera pole and to monitor all this lot. Then it give you how many empty, how many occupied. And this one you can also use as to see whether somebody parking, double parking or not. Right? So this is the combination of all those things. So this is a traditional way. You letak satu payung, letak tepi jalan, you count the car, right? But now you can actually calculate better than that. So basically the system can actually read and understand who you are. Is it a car? Is it a motorbike? Is it a lorry? What color of them? And how many of them? So they can count, and even type of the car, they can also identify whether you are Honda, Toyota, whatever it is. Right? So this one, they can also do it for the accident. So you can see here, there's a motorcycle hit the car. So it can alert and prompt to the authorities. So this one, they can see on the crowded places whether you comply with the safety or not. So you can detect there are too many people in one area. And we also use the same concept for the KLIA, where we monitor the unattended baggage. If let's say people left the bag more than certain time, it will alert the authorities there's a bag left there for more than, let's say, 5 minutes. So it will alert the authorities to go and check. So this is another observation. So this is a normal flow where it's supposed to be that way. You cannot go enter from this way. See what happened. You see this? Ada orang dalam.
Saya mute kejap. Dia terlupa nak kot. Tak apa, boleh teruskan.
Okay. Okay. Now, so this is for safety. Too close to the roadside. And this one to detect whether the person wearing the headgear or not. This one to detect a patient when they fall. So this one is there's a pilot we put in the hospital to detect a patient, and it will alert to the nurse. And this one, another example on human behavior. This one in the lockup. We'll install the camera. You see, in the lockup, sometimes there's an activity there. All the lockup they have the CCTV, but there are about hundreds of lockups in the one area. So there are hundreds of CCTV. So the police need to be alerted which one to look at. So this is another example whereby somebody climbed. We don't know whether he wanted to hang himself or what. It could be fall later. This one, people trying to tamper with the CCTV. This one another tampering. Dia letak ubat gigi lah. So these are the lockup behavior that we analyze and understand what happened in the place. So this is another example. You just imagine you have hundreds of like this in the wall for you to monitor, and probably one policeman sitting at the front looking at the hundreds of video cameras. So they need to be alerted which one they need to look at. So this is another example. You can see people entering, people are walking outside the perimeter, people entering at the specific places. You can actually monitor and you can understand how the behavior of human. This one is the event. So you can see the original on the top left and how we analyze and understand on the activity what happened at the scenario. And we can also identify where is the camera being. So that the policeman can actually go to that particular area. So the same concept we apply in the Tadika. So when the mother come in, with the license plate recognition, they can automatically understand this one is who and which student is that one. And this one is in the activity inside the Tadika. So you can actually see which one is the teacher, which one is the student, and how many students in the one area. You can understand that. And you can also detect if any problem happen. You can alert to the teacher. And you can also see where are the area that mostly people will go. And you can also see or density in one area. And you can also monitor if anything happen. And it can alert to the teacher. All right. So this is the one that we've been doing for the past 2 years. We basically read this. These are the mill slip for the palm oil. So when the dealer buy and sell to the mill, so they will be given this kind of notes, delivery notes. So we basically read this as OCR and bring back to the system and keep the traceability of each of particular fruits. And from there, we can also analyze and we know where are the refinery in the world. And all this information we collect from the internet, and also we gather from whatever public domain data that we have using the crawler, the robot just now, the data robot, and also map with the information that we have given by the company. And we can also gather the risk. The red color here is the risk, and we can map on top of the main. And this is another example of how to see who actually their suppliers. And you can understand more here where is the main supply coming from. And they can make decision whether to cut off or to continue or to add more on any area. And this is the radius. If let's say we can pinpoint what are the radius that we want to see. So it will tell you how many mill within the parameter, how many growers, how many producers, how many farmers. So it will tell you on that one. So this is one example. And another thing is this one is the Sankey chart. So you can see who are the main suppliers, to this particular plant, for example, and then who actually supply to them. So from here you can see these are the names of the mills. This one is the refinery, and this one is the plant. So they can actually open up, click here, and it will further open the chart. And this one also can be overlay and simulate on the policy, on the maps, and to understand more on the deforestation, biodiversity, and so on. We can also simulate on what are the risk impact and what they wanted to do based on the informed decision. So I think that's all. I already took up a lot of time. So I pass back to you, Khairus.
Okay, thank you, Azman. I think MIMOS have done quite a lot in terms of what we did in servicing, providing technological know-how into the Malaysian lifestyle. And we know, based on the presentation today, it covered not just on the data computing that are available on the internet, but also to the manufacturing process in the industry. And up to a point, I'm quite surprised when you guys have this analytical for the human behavior, which usually when we were young, we all during the 90s, we've seen it on the movie, and now it's actually come to the real life. And as well as the one, it is quite surprising to me. And as well as the one, the traceability in basically improving the sustainability especially for the palm oil industry. I would like to open questions to the students. We don't have much time left. I'm expecting to have at least three or four questions from the students. Anything related to job opportunity in terms of internship or anything like related for the data security. I open to students to ask. You guys can ask in Malay as well. Okay. Just turn on your mic and then ask the question. Thank you. Tak apa, jangan segan. Okay, Azman, boleh turn kamera tak, Man? Diorang tak nampak mana. Okay, Man, there is a question from Suha. She asked, in data analytics, adakah Malaysia still far behind ataupun leading in particular field?
Okay, in IR 4.0, we are basically at the level of 2.5, something like that. Not even 3, but we are getting more and more people towards 3 and 4. So that is the level that we are now. So hopefully we can bring up the industry up to the 4.0 lah. So that is we hope with all the initiative that are driven by the government, we hope that we can achieve that.
Okay. So you're saying that there is a lot of opportunity in Malaysia to basically, for the Malaysian to get involved in data analytics in terms of related to the IR 4.0.
Yeah, of course. Because now we try to train and to get the people to be on board. Because this area is we are lacking of the skill sets and talent. So that's why we encourage to come in and do this area of expertise.
Okay. Good, very good. Ada soalan lagi? Thank you, Suha. I mean, that is a good question, to be honest. I mean, kita pun tak tahu kan, memang Malaysia is lacking of talent in this field. Okay, from Afrina Damia, dia tanya, is it possible to someone reach the data in terms of, I mean, currently kan, sekarang kan kecoh dengan data security, information, semua. She asked that. I mean, how does it work in terms of breaching, there's like hacking, semua ni?
Okay, that one, yes, there are security concern on every part of implementation. So far in our program, we have divided many areas with the security portion. For example, like we need to understand what the authentication part and then authorization part. There are two different areas of security. For example, like the authentication, basically you wanted to know who the person is, and then whether the person is the real person. And then on the authorization part, whether basically you wanted to see whether this guy is already authenticated, what he can see, what he cannot see. So these are the area of the authorization part. So in this both area, there are a lot of implementation. For example, like in authentication part, you have like a second level of authentication. You have private key, private information stored in your own local device. For example, like your handphone and so on. So these are the implementation in safeguarding the information. And for example, like now we are doing a project with MOH, Ministry of Health. where we store the information about the patient information, the disease and so on. So it's being protected by the law that you should not have information about a person that can be identified to you on your health report, right? So in that case, but we still need to do some data analytic to understand more on the disease and so on, right? So in MIMOS, what we have done a technology where we can scramble the name and the profile so that you can get a different key every time you try to get the information, but you can still get the detail of the disease and this kind of information for you to analyze, but you cannot trace back to whom. So that is one of the things that we have done. And we have also done a strict security, for example, like only you can see the information. Even admin cannot see whatever stored in the information because it will be encrypted based on the key, the private key inside your mobile, for example. So only you have the key. So only you can open the information up. So these are some kind of security that we have implemented in our various projects.
Yeah, one last question from Miss Nurafi Farustan. Before we have this, kita akan ambilkan sama-sama. Okay, adakah penggunaan artificial intelligence semakin meningkat sekarang? Kalau begitu, bagaimana dengan peluang pekerjaan? Adakah akan sampai pada satu tahap semua industri akan menggunakan AI? What do you think on that in terms of artificial intelligence?
Okey, untuk yang ini saya rasa ya akan banyak benda yang akan diambil alih oleh AI dan kita perlukan manusia untuk cipta AI ni. So ini akan involve on the machine learning, deep learning and so on macam kita tadi. Macam kita tengok example yang I put just now. Untuk dulu kita nak kira number of kereta yang lalu di jalan untuk menentukan sama ada jalan ni boleh dibaiki atau tak. Kita nak tengok dia punya load, berapa ramai actually yang lalu di jalanan dan semua so on. Jadi kalau dulu punya approach kita letak orang, just imagine to hire a person have involved cost, right? And then to get the person also another headache because not everybody are free to go and sit down and count, right? And then it's under the sun and so on. So and then kita petang-petang hujan dan sebagainya. Ada macam-macam masalah dan human pun kadang-kadang maybe they will work at the 1 hour, then the next hour they just like jaki, yalah tulis je number. So this is the place where the AI can come and help the user and help the human lah. So we will try to minimize the usage of the human to make sure that we can improve the productivity. So and then make sure that we can pay more to the human to do a better area of job lah, kan, daripada dia duduk dan buat kerja yang kurang memberi productivity lah.
So maksudnya based on what you say is basically by having the AI they will cover this low cost yang kita kata kerja-kerja yang kerja remeh, kerja-kerja yang menyebabkan kerja-kerja buruh kasar yang kita and then gearing the human resource to something much more meaningful, for example like developing the AI, managing the data they obtain. I think so basically gearing to that direction. I think I think that's what Malaysia currently need in terms of the industry, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
So for example, like there are areas that human cannot cope. For example, like just now, the one that I share in the KLIA, you cannot imagine that a person can stare at the video at the screen for so long just to understand that the bag being left there for the last 5 minutes, right? And there are a lot of camera and video for you to watch. So just imagine that how you want to detect this particular bag being left there for more than 5 minutes, for example. So it's some area that it's hard for human to understand. I mean, hard for human to to realize, right? So this is the area that we need a machine to help identify all those areas lah.
Okay, kita ada seorang last question daripada Syifa Hassan. Dia akan tanya sendirilah. Persilakan Syifa Hassan untuk unmute mic.
Okay, terima kasih Doktor. Hello, Assalamualaikum. Mr. Azman, I would like to ask few questions. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, clearly.
Okay, first question. May I know how many percentage keberkesanan this technology pada kita punya agricultural sector? That first. How many percentage lah dia punya ni? Sebab kan ramai farmer, kita ada farmer macam mana small scale farmer and large scale farmer. Nak tahulah berapa banyak this technology dah membantu diorang. That's for my first question. And second question is, tadi ada cakap berkenaan dengan palm oil sector kan. So how this technology, berapa persen yang this technology dah membantu dalam dari segi kelapa sawit kita. Itu je. Thank you. Jelas tak soalan?
Okay, jelas.
Okay, for the first question on the agriculture, to be frank, I don't have the information because that project is not done by me, so I don't have the detail on how many percentage that can actually help the industry on relying giving that technology, whether they can help or not. But I can see it can actually give you some profit. For example, like last time I did a project with Felda during the I think 2010, I think, in the year 2010. It's a long 10 years ago. So during that time, what the project is all about is how to because Felda is basically they have palm tree, right? So they have palm tree. At the same time, they also have another business which is they call it seed. They are selling seeds of the palm. All right. So Malaysia currently is the best producer for the seeds, best quality of the seeds in the world. So, but how to produce the seed is basically they need the person to go up to the tree and hug the mother tree and see whether the fruit, the how to say this, whether the bunch of the fruits too is hot or warm enough to be fertilized, right? So after that, then only they will spray with the pollination, and then after the spray, then it will only be pollinate, right? Okay, that process actually sounds simple, but actually in the reality is very dangerous, because one thing is the tree is very high, very tall tree. That's one thing. And then you know that palm fruit, fresh fruit too, the tikus suka makan. So when tikus suka makan, there's a lot of rats. So bila a lot of rat, there's a lot of snake that eat the tikus, right? And then because the tikus usually add the fruits on top of the tree, the snake also can climb up to the tree, at the fruits. So you just imagine when you climb more than like 10 feet, how many feet there, going up, suddenly there's a snake waiting for you. So usually people, there are cases that people just jump down from that height to the ground, right? Because of the terkejut lah, right? So because of this, it's very risky process, and there's a no known or scientific way of determining what is the correct temperature. Yang dikatakan panas tu berapa panas yang dikatakan panas yang sesuai untuk depollinate. So sekarang ni they are using the human to hug, dia peluk buah tu. And then they will understand ini dah cukup panas to be pollinate, right? So masalahnya these people tak ramai yang nak naik, dan how you want to transfer the knowledge, berapa panas yang patut panas. So that's one thing. And then these people usually are foreigners, foreign worker, and at some time there are no workers. That's another issue. So how to, if let's say we can automate this or robotic it, then we can minimize the number of climb and to ensure that the safety of the people as well. So that is one of the area that we have implemented last time in 2010, right? To minimize the numbers of people climb with the sensors and analytic to understand more what is definition of warm and good to be pollinated. So that what we have done. But to answer your question on the percentage, I don't have the data, so I cannot answer on that. And then on the palm oil, because one of the reason we come up with this sustainable palm oil is because they wanted to be traced back whether they are buying from a good palm farm, where this farm is not doing the damages to the environment, did not burn the forest, did not kill the animals, did not interfere with the orang asli and so on. So these are the categories, and there's a certificate for that purpose. Right? And then we with the system we managed to be able to trace back as what the company said. We managed to trace back up to 98.5% traceability. So I think we have done a good job in that place, in that area.
Okay, we already passed 10 minutes to our time. Thank you very much, Mr. Azman. Sebelum kita beransur, kita akan buka sesi fotografi sebentar, saya akan tangkap. So, minta semua participant turn on the cameras. And okay, terima kasih banyak semua. Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Mr. Norazman. Looking forward to see you after the COVID and show my students as well. Most of them are basically studying at home. Everything is online now. It's quite a struggle for everyone. For all of us, just make sure that stay safe. And Mr. Azman, thank you very much. Students, thank you for coming, and thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Okay, make sure to attendance, okay?